Hello, I'm Patrick Jameson, and in this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to measure aluminum frame shapes by PGT. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to measure 3 different shapes and talk about some of the best practices you can use out in the field. Here's our first PGT aluminum shape, which is a hexagon. First best practice is on your tape measures. Use the right size tape measure. Don't use a small one on a very large opening or a really big one on a small opening. And periodically check to make sure that it's accurate. Being an aluminum flange window, this is measured tip to tip or flange to flange. So from the edge of this flange to this flange, or this side of the flange to this side, we will not measure the point to point, but from the edge to edge. This window has a 1/2 inch front flange all the way around. When we capture the measurement on the outside, it should be 1 inch less on the inside, which is called your daylight opening or DLO. In this situation, it would be from the inside buck to inside buck. So let's go ahead and start with the measurements. The first measurement I need is the width. So from this edge of this window to this edge or flange of this window is 35.5 inches. I can double check myself by going on the inside and seeing if the buck to buck measurement is 1 inch less, which would be 34.5 inches. To double check myself, I am going to measure from buck to buck, and it is 34.5 inches. I'm going to account for shim space and deduct up to 1/4 inch. So I would order this window with a width of 34.25. These hexagons can be ordered equal or unequal, which means that one of the sides is longer than the other side. To be on the safe side, I'm going to double check and make sure that is 35.5 inches because my width is 35.5 inches and this side is 35.5 inches. I know that this is a true equal hexagon window. Our next aluminum shaped window is PGT's eyebrow. On this window, we need 3 measurements. We need the width, we need the height, which is the center of the window, and we need the leg height. Always measure both leg height openings and use the smaller measurement. For best practices when using a tape measure, don't stand where the edge of the tape measure is and have the measurement away from you because you're not going to capture the accurate or the right measurement. Turn it around and make sure that the tip of your tape measure is up against your substrate or it's grabbing onto the frame that you need, and stand close to your measurement. Another best practice is make sure your tape measure is level, whether it's horizontally or vertically. Any slight angle of the tape measure will throw your measurement off. I'm now ready to measure this window. On the outside, if this was our old window that we're going to replace, I have an opening of 35.5 inches. For best practice and ordering an aluminum flange window, I'm going to want to deduct up to 1/4 inch, so 35.25 inches. The next measurement is the height. So from the substrate up is 21 inches, but I'm going to want to deduct and allow for shim space. So I'm going to deduct 1/4 inch, which would be 20.75. And now I'm ready to measure the leg height of this opening. I have 7.25 on this side. And for this side of the opening, and I'm measuring to the outside point of where it's welded. On this side of the opening is 7 1/8. So I would want to deduct up to 1/4 inch, which would be 6 7/8. And that's the size of my leg height. For best practice, measure the inside of this opening now and compare your measurements from inside and outside. Remember, it has a 1/2 inch flange all the way around, so it should be a 1 inch difference. If you have a 2.5, 3 inch difference, I would start looking and inspecting, maybe get behind the drywall or chip away a little bit of the stucco to verify where is your substrate or where is your buck. The third and last aluminum PGT window is our arch. The definition of an arch is where your height is greater than half the width. We learned on a half circle that your height can only be half the width or less. And if it's greater than that, it is an arch like we have here. The first measurement I need to capture is the width. Measuring the outside opening is 35.5 inches. I'm going to allow for shim space, so I'm going to deduct up to 1/4 inch, which would be 35.25 inches. Next, I need to capture the opening height. So from my substrate to substrate, we have 51 inches. I'm going to allow for shim space, deduct up to 1/4 inch, which is 50 3/4. I'm now going to compare my outside measurements with the inside measurements. We are on the inside of this opening now. Some of the challenges that we encounter are different building materials covering up the window frame, such as drywall. Using a pocket ruler, we can actually squeeze this in between the drywall and the window frame and get up against the buck. We can slide this component here up to the drywall, remove the pocket ruler, and see exactly how far the drywall is covering up the window frame. I'm going to apply the same process on the other side so I know what my buck to buck measurement is, or wood frame to wood frame. Then I'm going to deduct for shim space and proceed from there. Now we know where our buck to buck measurement is, or substrate to substrate. I'm going to compare the outside measurement with the inside. We have 34 5/8. I'm going to measure in the middle, 34 1/2, and 34 5/8. My smallest measurement is 34 1/2. I'll deduct for 1/4 inch, which comes out to 34 1/4. Outside measurement was 35 1/4. Since I'm going to be ordering an aluminum flange window, I want to go with the tip to tip measurement, which would be 35 1/4 inches in width. Now I'm going to measure the height. So from the top of my substrate to the buck or substrate I'm dealing with is 50 inches. That's what my outside measurement was 51 because of the flange, 1 inch bigger than the inside measurement. I'm going to deduct 1/4 inch from 50 inches, 49 3/4. The outside measurement would have been 50 3/4. I'm on the money. To recap, I'm now showing you how to measure 3 different PGT aluminum shaped windows. I'm Patrick Jameson, and thanks for watching.